Hello, it's Debbie Gilbert from the Business Awards Show, and I'm also the founder of the Best Business Women Awards and the Best SME Awards. And today's episode features a true powerhouse in the world of branding and entrepreneurship. Maylene Seah is an award-winning brand strategist, mentor, and speaker who has spent over 2 decades helping visionary founders, especially Muslim women, transform their businesses into unforgettable brands that get seen, felt, and raved about. Now, I met Maylene at the Best Business Women Awards in 2025 when she received a special recognition award from our judges for all of her work, which we're going to talk more about today. Maylene has also won other awards, which she's going to share with us today, and she's going to share some brand strategy tips with you all as well. So, welcome, Maylene.
Thank you so much for having me, Debbie. It's such a pleasure to be here
Oh,
chatting to you.
oh, it's great to see you again because, as I
Likewise.
just mentioned, the last time I saw you, you were on stage collecting a special recognition award.
Yeah, that was such a moment. Really didn't expect it, and I think I was buzzing for like days, probably weeks after.
Oh, that's amazing. So, we always start on our podcast talking about your business journey. So, you've been doing what you've been doing for a very, very long time. So, talk
Mhm.
me through your passion for branding and, why you set up your business, really.
Okay, so basically, I've always been a creative person, and my mom's always pushed me in that direction. And I came to UK from Singapore, like looking to work in all these design agencies that I see in coffee table books when I was back in Singapore, and so like I managed to get into those agencies. It wasn't easy at first, but I
Mm.
got into those agencies and did all this work, and it was just really. It's really inspiring and exciting to see how brands were actually becoming, it kind of helped form this belonging with people. But then also how you kind of craft those brands and those touch points are what makes somebody choose you. Like sometimes it's not even logical, like because a lot of the brands I was working on was, there was a mix. Most of them were like fast-moving consumer goods that was like in a supermarket. And you know how you're strolling down the supermarket and just grab stuff. There were also luxury brands. So it's a very different way to look at it. But basically, I was in that world for about a decade. Obviously doing some side hustles at the same time, but then I had my kids and well, the first one, and I was bored to death. So I started this create well, it was an Islamic product shop or business rather. So I was designing posters and creating products that, it started off being more mainstream, but then because I'm a Muslim convert, like at some point I thought, oh, you know what? I need stuff for my daughter to kind of inspire her about her faith and identity. And so I started creating these things or items that people really wanted and were willing to pay a premium for. And so that went on for 7 years. And then I sold the business because that was at the point of COVID, I think. And I saw a lot of small Muslim women businesses popping up all over. But they were asking a lot of questions that I could answer because I have been in branding agencies. So I kind of know like the psychology of it. I know how people think and how they shop, etc., the consumer behavior. And because I could answer a lot of those questions, I thought, you know what, actually, I could help these women. And
Mm.
even though I never thought that I'll be going back to branding again after having my kids, I actually went back to doing that. And I thought, you know what, I do also want to work with businesses that were here to make an impact,
Mm.
purpose-driven businesses, because obviously I was, in a big brand world and it was very different in terms of like, what they were kind of doing and also what it wasn't as kind of like purpose driven as I say like small businesses that I've like spoken to, and I see a lot of talented women. And that's how I kind of like went from that journey of like starting off big brands, corporate brands, to actually working with women that I can see and have stories that have pushed them to do what they do now to kind of make that impact that they desire to.
So, where did your business name come from, Studio Nora?
So Noranisa is actually my Muslim name. So when I
Um,
became Muslim, that was my name. And at that point, when I started the branding studio, I had a mentor, and I was like, oh, I don't know what to name it. So she was like, why don't you just use your Muslim names? And because there's always that kind of dilemma, like, do I want to make it sound Islamic or do I want to make it sound more generic?
mm,
And it really depends on like who I suppose I'm attracting or who I'm trying to serve. But you know what? It is my identity.
mm,
It might be a bit of a mouthful now that I think about it, like Studio Nora Nisa, but it is my name. So and Nor actually means light.
oh,
And it kind of goes with everything that I resonate with and align with. And so that became the name.
oh, that's amazing.
Thank you.
So let's talk about the challenges that Muslim women have in business. What have you come
Mm.
across? What have you seen?
So I think maybe the biggest one is they feel like they have to fit into a box or edit themselves or censor themselves or be a certain way so that they can be taken seriously or be seen as professional or for people to buy from them. So, and also I think they feel like they have to work doubly hard
Mm,
so that people can see them or to prove themselves. And the thing is, actually, a lot of the women that I've come across, they are really good at what they do, but often they just feel like they're just kind of scrambling in that sense to get seen. But not
mm,
just seen. I no, I hear a lot of women talking about visibility. I think they feel overlooked. But actually what I've noticed it's not just about being seen, it's about being chosen.
mm,
And
yeah.
and I think, that is the next thing, right? Like, and so yeah, I think that is the main thing, being chosen, being seen, being
Mm,
chosen. But at the same time, I feel like there's that kind of misalignment of values and of the identity. So yes, like, yeah, hey, look at me, and but then like, oh gosh, like, am I being too loud or too bold or too
mm.
different? And there's going to be judgment from both the non-Muslim side, but also from the Muslim side. It's this really weird kind of line that they have to walk on.
Yeah, it's so difficult, isn't it? Because we're told we've got to be visible and then stepping out and being visible, sometimes you can feel knocked back by people. It's so, so hard to strike that balance.
Yeah.
When you're working with somebody on brand strategy, and I'm going to be honest, it's a new buzzword really over the last maybe 5 to 10 years because I set up my business 30 years ago, and this was not a term, brand strategy, and brand strategists just didn't exist. And I think it's evolved, but I think it's a really important component of setting up a business. And I think there are a lot of people that skip this step and then they regret it later. So, where do
Mm.
you begin with brand strategy when you're working with a new business or an existing business that needs help?
Yeah. So I have this framework, and I think this is my kind of like something I did subconsciously, but now I kind of have this framework I could default to and tell people about. But it really goes back to the essence of who you are and what you stand for, but also what you stand against. Like, what do you refuse to be
Mm,
about? Or what do you not tolerate in this world? Because that is why you come up, that's why you set up your business usually, isn't it? And I think
mm,
that's especially so for, business founders as compared to like some big company. And so it is the essence of who you are, like your personality, your voice, etc. And then it is then what is that the next part is the emotion side of things. Like, what do you want people to feel about you? Like, what's that peak emotion? Because the truth is, 97% of purchasing decisions are made subconsciously. So
mm,
people are just buying from you, working with you, or choosing you based on how they feel about you.
mm,
And that has to then be translated to like the experience that you give at every touch point, not just one, not just social media or your website. It's like everything. So, I kind of see this as like building a brand well in a sense, where then it feels like it's inviting the right people to come in because they feel that sense of belonging but
Mm,
I also feel like this is where they can become the next level of themselves that they want to be. So yes, the strategy really comes to really uncovering who you are.
mm,
In that's like the simplest way to put it. And also in what I do, I always look for like how are you different
mm,
to everyone else? And it's kind of like a thumbprint, right? Like it is likely that no one is you. And with
mm,
all of AI and like ChatGPT and everything, that you get a lot of like AI slop at the moment. Like you have lived your life a certain way. Your experience shapes your beliefs and how you perceive things. And this is what you're bringing to the world. And this is your difference, and that's the actual powerful thing that cuts through the noisy online space or offline space as well. And so for me, when I do brand strategy with my clients, with my mentees, it is like I find myself always trying to find, okay, how are you different to
mm,
everybody else? Like you might do the same things like, fashion or like
mm,
you might make candles or like offer financial services, but what is that thing that makes you do it differently to somebody else that you can really shout about? And so I find like that is the piece that you want to keep, translating and communicating to everybody or to your
mm.
audience, especially through every touch point. So they see your brand, it speaks for you, they just get it. And sometimes they will choose you without even knowing why they're choosing you. They just feel like, oh, I think she understands me, or I think she's going to be able to solve my problem. So that is what I do, basically.
Sometimes as well, though, it's also about doing something a bit different, isn't it? Because with the Best Business Women Awards, a lot of the female awards at the time, because there weren't that many when I set them up,
Mm.
there are now, but kind of went with pink and went with purple. That is kind of the generic female colours. And I thought,
Yeah,
no, I want something that says you're an amazing, you know, business, and gold is your kind of standard of quality, isn't it? Gold and
yeah,
black.
yeah,
That's
definitely.
why I did that, because I didn't want to be pink or purple or that those pastely colours that a lot of
There's a lot of them,
female
isn't it?
business choose it. Business, they choose these colours. Like you see, navy blue is like in financial services a lot, isn't it? There's like certain
Yeah.
colours, isn't there? But isn't it good to kind of
Yeah.
maybe break out from that and have a different brand identity? What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I feel like I do get asked this a lot because, or rather, I see this a lot. Like when I speak to a lot of like women founders, and they're like, "Oh, like my colors, right? Like I don't know if this is right, or like I don't know if, or they might just keep changing it up." And
Mm,
yes, I think you know it is good to see what other people are doing because there is usually a kind of like color visual
mm,
code and that people kind of like already associate with, and that's good. But then
mm,
what I push them to do is like, okay, can you bring in a little accent of
mm,
color that just feels different? Like there's a bit of tension, but then
mm,
that's what creates that kind of interest and that's compelling. And or sometimes I'll say like, you know what? Think about like, if your brand was to be in a space where if you did create this world or this space where you're
mm,
inviting people in, like, the ideal place, like what does it look like?
mm,
And some people would tell me like, oh yeah, I really love the seaside, it brings me calm. Some people, but oh, it's a forest, or someone might be a spa. And I'm like, okay, so then what the kind of colors do you see around? And how do you bring that in? But then again, bring that, like seeing how does that kind of compare with everyone else, and then bringing a bit of interest. Because someone might be like, oh, I'm all about, feminine energy and like the softness, etc. But then there's a little bit of them that's actually quite fiery
mm,
in the way they do things. I'm like, bring that in, like a
mm,
little burst of orange or a little burst of something, because colors is a quick way to
mm,
suggest the personality of a brand, isn't it? And then obviously the fonts will support that, and then all the other things like the graphics, the imagery, photography, videography, whatever textures.
mm,
And I find usually when you think about a space, because it's so 3D and something where you can kind of imagine yourself in, you pick up a lot of visual inspirational cues to like, how can that come into your brand? How can that vibe be translated into your brand?
mm. That's all very fascinating. I find the
Yeah.
psychology of colour branding is really interesting. Right, okay, let's move on to talk about business awards.
Yeah.
So, you were not a stranger to business awards when you came to the Best Business Women Awards. So, talk me through your thoughts on awards and what role that it's played in your business journey.
Yeah. So with awards, I think, you know what, I grew up where my mom was always entering awards, and I
Was
think that rubbed
she?
off on me. Yeah. So she was a florist, and I
Ah,
used to tag along with her like to like, competitions, and like she tends to like be at the top. So I
right.
think there is that sense of like, excellence and getting recognized that probably has been passed on down to
No,
me.
but that's good.
It's
That's
good.
good.
It's good.
We
Yes,
encourage women to bring their daughters to the awards because I think it's
precisely.
important.
I think, yeah, yeah. And the awards, I think for me, it getting into it, there was this part where like I think needing that validation, like I'm
Mm,
doing things right, but also I think the recognition, and I noticed that the recognition was a big piece for me. I felt like that recognition was going to be something where I could say to my kids, this is,
mm,
this is something that is possible for you as well,
mm,
right? Just the way my mom's kind of passed that on to me. Um, and I think also because, like I said to you before, like, as a Muslim, as somebody who's kind of like an in-between space,
mm,
that actually says a lot. And, it almost becomes part of my identity in a way where I want to impress on my kids. Look, you can be Muslim and you can be, a different color and a minority, and you can still make an impact. And here's the award to, or the validation piece to show you that, to prove that. So the first award I went into or got myself into was the Savera, was it called the Savera like Women Awards? If I'm not wrong, how I got it right. And so I entered the creative segment, obviously, as a branding studio. And I was runner-up. And the lady who won actually is a kind of like a friend of mine as well. And she's actually a creative or artisan chocolatier. And she makes this amazing chocolate dates. So like I was like so happy to just be sharing that award with her as a runner-up. I wasn't
mm.
expecting it because you think like, oh, it's just the winner and that's it. So that was a really nice one to have. And then later on, I think I think there was a period of time I didn't actually go into awards because I found that a lot of awards I was seeing was the voting. And this is why I loved your
Mm.
award. Like there was a lot of voting.
Yeah, I
And
don't
it
like
almost
voting.
felt like a popularity contest. I'm like, you
Yeah.
know what? I'm not that kind of person.
Mm,
And so I thought, you know what? No, like it didn't
mm,
feel right or didn't feel like something that was compelling then for me to kind of enter into any more awards. But then I came across the F Entrepreneur
mhm.
Awards last year. Thanks to like a peer of mine, you might know her actually, Arfi, no, RT Parma.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
she's one of our
So
judges.
so we were actually we were actually being mentored by the same mentor at one point. So like I was following her journey and she's amazing and I saw like oh she was in F Entrepreneurs. I thought, you know what? Okay, let me have a look at this. And then I said to myself like, oh, there's no one who looks like me. But at the same time, like it's meant to be a very kind of diverse kind of recognition. And so I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna try and go
Mm.
for it. And so like I was really kind of over the moon when I made it into the IOSO 100 list for I think it was 2024.
Brilliant.
And I think that kind of like just stirred something in me because it's I don't like to use this word, but like bragging rights in a way because you feel like I've done something, it's being recognized, like this is legit, and I know that this is something that I can then bring value to people with what I do. And so I think that kind of opened up the doors a bit. Then obviously I saw Artie again at the Best Business Women Awards, and I thought, okay, maybe let me have a look at this one too. And so to be honest, I almost didn't sign up for it.
That's funny,
It
isn't
was
it?
like, oh my God, there's all these amazing women in here. And I'm like, again, I don't see someone like me. And I'm like, but then at the same time, like this feels like such a high caliber. And then obviously you have like a judging panel And I just wasn't sure, like I just wasn't sure if this is something that I
Mm.
could give myself permission
Yeah.
to enter yet. But then I was watching your YouTube videos, and I think you had an interview with, I think it was one of the judges, and I can't remember who it is now. But she said something. I think she also entered it before, and she didn't think that it was something to enter, right? But she did it, and she actually won gold. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, maybe I should just give it a go then. Because I think throughout all the videos or interviews that you were doing, it was always, I think you were always being very encouraging, like,
Mm.
just put yourself forward, right?
Yeah,
Which is
because
great.
you know, we don't shortlist everybody, and that's the sad fact. We can't. We get too many entries. But if you don't try, you'll never know. And that's the thing, because I think often women are much better than what they think they are. They're doing a
Yeah,
much better job than they think they are. And
yeah.
comparisonitis is dangerous, isn't it?
It is, it is. And I suppose because for myself, like something I live by is also like never say never.
No,
So
that's right.
I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna go for it. Like what could happen, right? So I mean, yes, it is quite a tedious process to go through, but I think that's actually even better because if I didn't make it through, it says something. So I think
Yeah.
yeah. So I just remember being at the cafe, like this cafe near my kids' school, like trying to get all the documents and the interview question, all the questions that you asking or sent through. But yes, so I'm so pleased that I did that because then when I got the letter to say that I've been shortlisted for two categories, I was like, oh my goodness! Like I was jumping up and down like a crazy woman, and my daughter was
Oh,
like,
that's lovely. So you got your two silvers on the night, and then
yeah.
we do the special recognition awards at the end. So, how did that feel to receive one of those? What was your thoughts when you suddenly realized they were talking about you?
I think I was just frozen. I was I still have the video from my husband because obviously he was filming next to me. But I was just like, wait, hold on, that's my name. And then I think because it went into that reading of that beautiful letter of
Mm,
like all the judges' words, it's just suddenly, oh, I just felt so seen.
mm.
Like all this work that I've been putting in. I mean, I'm not asking for any kind of rewards or anything like I'm doing this because I
Yeah.
felt like there was a gap, and but then to know that all this late nights and all this kind of like the whole ups and downs of entrepreneurship as you would understand, it's like, oh wow, like I think it was that sense of validation. Like I
Mm,
haven't been doing all this for nothing. Like, okay, I am doing something right here. But I
mm.
think at the same time, I was like, oh my God, I wish my community could see this.
Yeah.
Because it was like it didn't feel like it was just for me. It just felt like
Mm,
all of us were being seen at the same time when that letter was being read out. And I don't know whether there was almost like a sense of relief at the
mm,
same time underneath all that, and so like it just felt like wow, like this is like a whole new door being opened right now,
mm,
for women like us. And also because it was so uncomfortable for me to put myself in there, but at the same time, and also there were all this kind of like there's always all this kind of stigma and things about or stories that we tell ourselves like, oh, like other people see us in a different light, or
mm,
don't take us seriously, or whatever that might be. And it didn't feel like that at all. Like I think I felt so welcome and so seen. And I feel like sometimes, like because I've been through this, like I kind of went into this bubble, which is good for a while, but sometimes you kind of need to step out of that
mm.
comfort zone. And I felt like in the last 2 years I've pushed myself to step out of that comfort zone, and I'm so glad that I did,
Uh,
because now like it just feels like, I don't know, I feel like I can do my work better in that sense, right? You
yeah.
can't do it when you're like just stuck in this well.
Well, you've got wider recognition, and I think that helps power us forwards when we get that because we feel recognised, we feel seen, and we know people out there are appreciative of the work that we're doing.
Mm, mm,
So let's talk about business tips because you've been in business for quite some time now. So I
mhm,
think you've already covered off like the awards side that people do need to step out of their comfort zone.
mm.
And we've talked a bit about branding. Is there anything more on the general side of running your business that you would advise people to do in the early stages?
You know what? I think something that I've learned, maybe the hard way, or maybe a couple of things actually. Um, it might sound like it's not really related to business, but it was trusting myself.
Oh, yeah, it's good.
I felt like I didn't really trust myself, and I was constantly looking for validation outside
Mm,
of myself. And actually, like after all those years, you think like, oh yeah, actually what I was thinking from the beginning was right after all of this. I mean, it was still very good to have been on that journey, and sometimes you do need that. But I think there were times I wish I trusted myself more and just went for it. Something also kind of linked to that, I feel, is that people think like they need to get things perfect. And I think
mm,
especially in terms of branding, like, oh my gosh, I need to get my website done, I need to get my social media done, I need to get my colors and fonts and whatever all sorted before they make the next move. And I feel like, no, it doesn't have to be because like the market's always changing. People's behavior, consumer behavior is always changing. The world's changing. You got AI and everything's moving fast, right?
mm,
And like the best thing you could do is really just put it out there in your most authentic sense, you know, not being afraid to be different. And you kind of just move and
mm,
decide as you go along. And that's how the growth happens. And I think for me, I've realized it's a bit been about accepting that this is going to be a messy time. But boy, you're going to grow during this amount of time. Because like with my last business, I only realized this now. I didn't put things out when I was ready. I just like, oh, I've got this idea. Like, what do you think to my community and almost built with them? And I
mm,
think that's what made it successful. That's what made it a brand where people still remember it. People bought, even though there were copycats out there, even though it was at a premium than a lot of like the Muslim products out there. It's because I kind of built with them. They felt like they were doing this together with me.
mm,
So I think, not being afraid to be messy, just showcase your journey as you're doing the business and involving the people that you're serving. And that's why I talk about this brand world because you're almost kind of doing this together. And I think the last one I would say is like boundaries. I didn't
mm.
really have any boundaries to be honest. Like I would say like, okay, I need to have more boundaries in place so I'm not like, killing myself over like certain things. I think it's hard when you're like passionate about something and just want to get it done, or you've got an idea or a million ideas and you kind of want to, do them the best you can. But I feel like at the same time, it made me burn out a lot of times or took me places I didn't want to be kind of stuck in. So I feel like as a business, having healthy boundaries is really important.
Yeah, I think that's really, really good advice. And it's one I've fallen down on a number of times. I don't
I
mind
think we all
admitting that.
have.
But yeah, I think it's a really important piece of advice. Well, thank you for joining me today. It's been
Thank you
lovely
for having
meeting
me.
you and listening to your journey. I am sure we're going to be seeing you win many more awards in the future. And I wish you continued success with Studio Nora Nisa.
Thank you. And can't wait to see all the other winners that you bring into your awards.
Thank you. If you've been listening to today's episode, we will be putting Maylene's details into the show notes. So if you want branding advice or support with your business, then you can get in touch with her for more details. So thank you, Maylene.
Thank you.